Only numerous number of second.
No. All right, so we have to solve for x there. It's saying that the absolute value of x, so we need to figure out the absolute value of which number. That's what we have to solve to give us an answer of 7. Now, you have done the homework and you have practiced the work and the process is practice. If you take the absolute value of 7, what is the answer? 7. What's the absolute value of negative 7? Also 7. So x can be either positive or negative 7. If you take the absolute value of 7, the answer is 7. Take the absolute value of negative 7, also 7.
More than
So now positive and negative 1. That's going to be it.
why not?
Let's just go through the examples and then after that question. All right, so now we need the absolute value of a number minus 2, which would give us an answer of 3. All right, whatever we have in the absolute value here, right, has to be either 3 or negative 3. Are we in agreement with that? Because if we have the absolute value of 3, the answer is 3. The absolute value of negative 3 is also going to be 3. So now, because in our absolute value here, we don't just have x, we actually have an expression. We're going to have to make that expression equal to 3 or equal to negative 3. If this expression is 3, then that means the absolute value of 3, which we know is 3, right? But if the expression is equal to negative 3, then we have the absolute value of negative 3, which is also equal to 3. All right, and now we're going to have to solve for x in each of these equations. So we're going to have to add 2 to that side. So we're going to have that x is 5. And then on the other side, in the other equation that we take up, we'll also have to add 2 to negative 3, which is going to give us an answer of negative 1. Because the absolute value of 3 is 3, but the absolute value of All right, now for example 3, there's a bit more going on. I would like you to first write in the absolute value equation in this form. So that you just have an absolute value on the one side and everything else on the other side. Right? That's what we had in the first 2 examples. We had an absolute value equal to another, absolute value equal to another. All right, so in any absolute value equation, that is what you need to do. So first I'm going to move this negative 3 over to the other side. I'm going to have my negative absolute value of x plus 2 equal to 3. And then I also want to get rid of this negative 1 that is in front of the absolute value. What am I going to do with that negative 1? I'm going to divide. So I'm going to say the absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to negative 3. That's possible. And an absolute value of any number be equal to a negative value. 3. 3 is equal to negative 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 3. 3 is equal to nega Oh, so for this, you're going to say no solution. So it is possible for any equation to have an answer of no solution, but especially with absolute value, they often want to test whether you understand that an absolute value can only be positive. So, this is quite a common question in the textbook and also in past papers and could also be examined. Right, so don't feel like you have done something wrong with your answer, especially for the equation. All right, next one, number 4. Let me actually move it to the bottom here. I have enough space. Okay, we're going to do the same thing, guys. We're going to get everything on the other side. We just want the absolute value on the side or on the left-hand side. I'm going to move that minus 12 over. I'm going to add 12 to 4. We're going to have 4 times the absolute value of x, which is 4 plus 12, which is. And now we also want to get that 4 to the other side. So I'm going to say 16 divided by 4, which is 4. Alright, so now we need to think, what number must x be for the absolute value of that number to be equal to 4? Positive 4 or negative 4, because the absolute value of 4 is 4, but the absolute value of negative 4 will also be 4. So x will have to be equal to plus or minus 4. All right, you can write down, sorry, number 5, so long, that's the next one that we have today. And guys, I want us to remember the core definition of the absolute value, which we did write down the other day. I'm just going to go back to that page that was over there. Right? We said that the absolute value of x is going to be x, right? So that same number that's in the absolute value, if that number is positive. Right? If that number, if x is 0, then the absolute value is going to be equal to 0. And if you have a negative number here, so say for example, I'm just going to write it again. If you have an absolute value of negative 2, right? What is the answer of that? It's going to be positive 2, which is the same as negative 2. Okay? That is what this last line is all about. If you have an actual negative value in your absolute value, then the answer is going to be negative that value. Right? So negative 2. So guys, when we are working with absolute value equations, we're actually going to group the first 2 parts of this definition together. Right? So we're always going to group those 2 together. I'll show you now what I mean by that. But I just want us underneath this question to, or maybe it depends on where you have space. You can maybe do it on the side. I do have enough space on the side. Remember that the absolute value of x is equal to, and now like I said, we're going to group those first 2 parts together. It's x if x is greater than or equal to 0. And it's negative x if x is less than 0. We're actually going to use this definition now in this question. And the fact that there's a 5x here, that complicates things, right? If it was just a 6, for example, we would just say x is plus or minus. All right, but as soon as you have an x, a variable in your absolute value, and a not in the absolute value, you have another x term, then we're going to have to work with the difference. All right, so what we're going to say, guys, we're going to say if x is greater than or equal to 0, right? So we are going to set up an equation if this number, the x value that we're getting, is positive or equal to 0. Let's just think about positive for now. If this value is positive, right, then x is going to be equal to 5x minus 6. Just see if that makes sense. If x is positive, what is the absolute value of x? X. Okay, do you see what I'm doing? I'm saying if x is positive, then the absolute value of this, we just looked at that, right? If x is positive, what is the absolute value of x? X. So all I'm doing is I'm replacing the absolute value of x with just what it would actually be if it was positive. Okay? And they say that the absolute value must be equal to that. Okay, that's going to give us one equation that we can solve. We'll do more examples, so don't stress. It is a bit confusing at first. We're going to say x minus 5x, right? So that's going to be negative 4x is equal to negative 6. Okay. So what is x going to be equal to? 6 over 4, which is 3 over 2. Let's check if that works, guys. If x is 3 over 2, right? What is the absolute value of 3 over 2? 3 over 2. Let's plug 3 over 2 into this equation. 5 times 3 over 2, 15 over 2 minus 6. So it's 15 over 2 is 7.5, right? Minus 6 is 1.5, is 3 over 2. Okay, so we can sub that back in and we will see that it does actually work. Okay. So I'm going to be with you now. We're going to do the second part of the question. All right, I'm going to add something next to it just now. So just underneath that, we now need to also say, what about if x is negative? Right? Because this value in the absolute value can also be a negative number. What happens then, guys? What is the absolute value of x if x is negative? Negative x, okay? That's what the definition tells us. So now we're going to say, okay, the absolute value of x, if x is a number that's negative, we'll have to do negative x. But what did they say in the equation? That will be equal to 5x minus 4. So I'm applying the definition, guys. What's negative x minus 5x? Equal to negative 6. So what is x? Negative 6 divided by negative 6 is 1. Let's say that. What's the absolute value of 1? 1. Okay, so on the left we get 1. What am I going to get on the right if I make x equal to 1? 5 times 1 is 5, minus 6 is negative 1. So does this one actually work? No. Guys, we said if x is negative, right, is 1 a negative answer? No. Alright, so you can actually do a check here, because for this solution, this part of the solution, we said that if x is a negative number, right, then this equation will work. But now we're getting a value for x that's not negative, right? So we're actually contradicting ourselves here. So you do have to check, guys. I'm going to write here in brackets, x equals 1 is not negative. So you don't actually have to do a check every time. You can just see your answer that you're getting, does it go or does it correspond to almost like the condition that you stated at the beginning, right? Does x equal 1 correspond to x having to be a negative number? Okay.
I think this conversation after that is equal to 5 minus 6 or after x negative of that 5 x minus 6.
So you would have to say x, not after that. But yes, you can do it.
Yeah, what's that?
Yeah, whatever.
That's
Well, then you would have to do like a manual check. So I would, for the 5x minus 6, it would be positive. So negative 5x minus 6. Well, it depends on CPR, it depends on what's in that. Okay, any other questions at this point, guys? We're gonna do another one that is just like this one now, okay? So example 6, I want you guys to try it on your own and then I'll show you. Example 6. If we have, oh sorry, I don't actually want to make one up now because sorry, I wasn't planning on doing another one. Find another one that actually works.
That's it.
So, sorry, let me just check. Oh, no, it's right, that question in your path is just an equation, hey. The last one. Is it an equation or is it an inequality? An equation, okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to make one up now and hope for the best. Distances. We don't really apply them in graphical things in the school. Google it that. All right, do that one on your own, please. Yeah, so you don't have to write the English. And guys, if both of your solutions are invalid, then you're gonna have to end off by saying therefore no solution. I don't know if that happens in this case, but it might because I just made this question up. But just in case. Yeah, but on the other side, you have the absolute value. So you have to check in your original equation. The value of x is the absolute value is always positive. Yeah, but we can also check. It doesn't make the equation true. It doesn't work in my equation. With X out. Absolute value of X. No, you have to look at what you say. Yes. Absolute value from the X can be as long as we. Sorry, I just had a little panic. Just. Oh, so that's. Push it. I'm not sure. Okay, now let's take a look. All right, there we go. I got two answers. The first one was invalid, the second one was valid. So guys, remember for the first one, you're saying that X is positive, right, or 0. So X is positive or 0, so now we're going to say that this, the absolute value of X, when X is positive, is X. I'm saying X a million times, but are you guys understanding what I'm saying? Yeah. That's coming from the definition, okay? The absolute value of X, when X is positive, is X. So that's what I'm doing. Alright, and I'm making it equal to the right hand side of that equation. Solving for X. Guys, we're getting a negative number. This does not correspond with what we said there. We said that X must be a positive value. Now we're getting a negative value for X. Okay, so that is why, that's how you can see straight away that is not right. Alright, because you said that X is positive, but now X is negative, that's not, that can't work. And if you were confused about this, you just wanted to check, you would also get that the left hand side is not equal to the right hand side if you sub this in. What is the absolute value of negative 4? 4. So you would get 4 on the left. But now if you sub X equals negative 4 into this side, what's 4 plus 2 times negative 4? Negative 4. So you're getting 4 and negative 4. Those two are not equal. Alright? If you're getting an answer that is not making the two sides of your equation equal, then it's invalid. Alright, for the other one, now we said, okay, if X is negative, then the absolute value of X is going to be negative. Okay, equal to what they gave us on the right. Solving for X, I'm moving that plus 2X over, and then I'm dividing by 3. Negative 3, yeah. Alright, now guys, these two, what's the condition and answer, they do correspond, because I said X must be negative and X is negative. Alright, so that is valid. If you want to, you can check. Alright, we can say the absolute value of negative 4 over 3 is 4 over 3. And if you sub that in, you also get 4 over 3. Right, so there are two ways in which you can check, guys. You check whether your answer corresponds with the condition that you stated. That's the first thing. If you're not sure, then sub it in. Okay, but makes both sides equal. All right, we're now going to do one that is a little bit more complicated. So this will be number 7. I originally numbered it as 6, but we can just change that to 7. And that is a 3, guys. Sorry, that kind of looks a bit ambiguous. So now we're doing the absolute value of X plus 3 minus 2X. Yeah. Yes. Probably. You have to show. All right, guys, just like the first one, that's a little bit more or less complicated, sorry. We do notice that there's a 2x there, okay, so this is going to be one where we have to apply the definition. But first, guys, we need to get that minus 2x on the other side. So we always want to have the absolute value equal to everything else. Okay, we don't want anything else with the absolute value on the left there. We get rid of everything else. So I'm going to have the absolute value of x plus 3 equal to 2x plus 4. Guys, at least for that, you will get a mark, okay? So, that's something at least. Forget how to do the rest, you can get a mark with doing everything on the one side. Now, guys, if this was the question, right? Just humor me for a second here. If this was the question, maybe I should put an A there instead of an X. Oh, and then this one should be A. Okay, if that was the question, that looks like the one that we just did, right? You would say, okay, if A is positive or equal to 0, what is the absolute value of A then? If A is positive, the absolute value of A is A. Okay, you need to memorize that definition, guys. We can use it all the time. And that will then be equal to 2A plus 4. Okay, and then you would solve that. Okay, and then you would also say if A is negative, so if we have a negative number there, right? If A is negative, what is the absolute value of that number there? That value. Negative A. Right? All right, we find with that in really big on the right. Now, if I need to apply that method to something that is a little bit more complicated, we don't just have one variable in the absolute value now or absolute value. We now actually have an expression. Okay, so now we're going to have to say not if x is positive, but if this whole expression is positive. Okay, so I'm going to say if whatever is in my absolute value is positive. Right, we have to say that condition first. Whatever is in the absolute value, that is positive. But guys, if x plus 3 is positive, then what does that mean for x? Remember how to solve this kind of inequality. The plus 3 you would move to the other side, hey? So we would actually have, let me rather so that is actually our condition. Not if x is greater than 0. If the whole expression is an absolute value, that is greater than 0. So you have to move that plus 3 over. So guys, if what's in your absolute value is positive, right? What did we say here? If what's in your absolute value is positive, absolute value of A would just be A. If the absolute value of a positive thing here, what is that equal to? Just that thing, hey, that expression. Then we're going to have x plus 3 equal to 2x plus 4. Just like we had x and A, now we're just going to have x plus 3, the whole expression. Now we need to solve for x, right? We need to move this 2x over, sorry, it becomes minus 2x. I'm going to have a negative x. 4 minus 3, right, is 1. What does that give me for x? Negative 1. Does that go along with my condition, guys? Is negative 1 greater than or equal to negative 3? Yes. Okay, so that one is fine. That one is valid. So now we need to do the second condition, guys, because what we have in our absolute value can also be negative, and then we can still solve that. So if x plus 3 is negative, what does that mean for x? I need to take that plus 3 and move it across. So x will then be smaller than negative 4. That is our condition. Second solution. So guys, what did we do here? I'm just going up to the red again. For the absolute value of A, if what is in that absolute value, if A is negative, then the absolute value is negative A. What is in my absolute value now? X plus 3. So I'm going to have to do negative x plus 3. Whatever is in the absolute value is now for the minus x. And that will then be equal to what is on the right, 2x plus 4. Yeah. Okay, let's multiply that minus 1 in. Right, we have to solve for x. So this 2x is going to become minus 2x. We're going to have negative 3x equal to 4 plus 3, right? When I move this minus 3, it becomes plus, so 7. So what is my x value there? Negative 7 over 3, which is negative 2 and a third, okay? So that was in the condition that I said. I said that x would be smaller than negative 3. So is negative 2 and a third smaller than negative 3?
It does work.
Have to check both ones, please. Yes. Just because for 0, if you have the absolute value of 0, it's 0. Where if you have the absolute value of a positive number, it's also that positive number. So that's why we group those two together. Okay. Whereas for negative, it's not the same. Okay. So we always group the 0 with the positive. You have to check if the value that you get on the left equals to the value that you get.
And so negative 7.
No, but
What is the absolute value?
if you start getting to a negative, why is it a negative? Sorry, not something. Not the one that you say up. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you another one like this for you to do on your own that we can mark. What is this now? Number 8. What is the last thing? The last thing that we're going to get through. What else are we supposed to? We're going to get through this project. Right, so that's one of your own. Because we have a 2x, because we have another x term, we're going to have to apply the definition of the actual value, but first, get everything on the other side. The last question is an absolute value equation, but I can't remember the number. It might just have numbers. All right, do we have our answers? Not yet. All right, guys. There we go. That's what I got. Let me know if you disagree. Okay, the first thing is to take that plus 2x over to the other side, it becomes negative 2x. Then you take whatever is in your absolute value and you say if that whole expression is positive, and then you solve for x in that expression, right? So move the minus 3 over. Then if what is in your expression is positive, then the absolute value of that is just going to be the same expression. So the x minus 3, you put it into the equation, solve for x. Now if we're meant to get a number that's greater than or equal to 3, a third is smaller than 3. Alright, so that one doesn't work here. So guys, when you have more complicated things in your absolute value, it's not always going to be, you have to have a positive and a negative answer. Right? It actually depends on these, what can I call them, those boundaries, I suppose, those intervals. Okay, then for the second solution, if what is in your absolute value expression is negative, and you solve for x, then it's going to be negative that expression equal to negative 2x minus 2, multiply in, solve for x. Now we're looking for a number that's smaller than 3, and negative 5 is smaller than 3. All right, so okay, that is the last word for AP for this year. I am going to give you a few of these to practice for tomorrow while it's still fresh in your memory. I think the question in the text does not have x's in it. The last question, I think it just has numbers. So it's of the second last type that we did. But guys, you can get a question like this in your exam. So you're going to have to practice. Now I'm talking about the very last question. Yes, please. Oh no, it's just saying solve for this equals 0. So guys, let me just show you quickly. It uses function notation, right? But it's just saying that this is a function, and now you can make that equal to 0 and solve for x. Okay. So what I mean by there are no x's is I mean there isn't another x term, right? So it's not like this one here where you have where you have the x in your absolute value and then another x term. It's actually like this example. Number 5. No. Number 4. Yeah. Right? It's similar to that example where you only are going to end up with an absolute value, something equal to a number. Right, it's actually kind of like number 2, actually. Right, yeah.
All my time right hand side.
It's fine. Both are equally mathematically correct. Why would the one be more than the other one? Because the same thing. Oh, okay.
And because all X times measure. And plus minus.
So you are using, like the answer, I'm using the definition, it's the same. Or it's fine. You want it, you want it. Sorry guys, there are 20 questions, so I'm just gonna pick and choose a few. I'm not gonna ask you guys to do all 20 of it. All right, those 5, please. You can finish it in the 10 minutes or less, so please keep going. Grade 10, this means